Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tech in EdTech, where we discuss technology, education, and everything in between. Today on the show, we have with us Serena Sacks-Mandel. Serena is the Global Chief Technology Officer for Education at Microsoft. Serena, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Serena, you have a very interesting background. I mean, you've been in education for a long time. The very interesting thing is you've been on the school side, you've been in tech companies. Can you give a little bit of background to the audience about your role, how you came into Microsoft, and your journey in education?
Absolutely. Happy to talk about that. So I actually started my career in corporate. So I actually have a master's in policy analysis and management, and I wanted to do something that was going to really help people. But I was in love with technology, and my stepfather said I wouldn't necessarily like being in public sector. So he's like, why don't you work in the private sector and then you can work in the public sector? So it actually came true that way. So I worked for IBM for the first 10 years of my career, learned a lot, really, it was a great experience. And then I went on the client side. I was at Walt Disney World, and I worked for a number of other private sector Fortune 100 companies, including Harcourt, which is now HMH. And that has proven to actually be very instrumental in me understanding kind of the publishing and content side of education. But then I went on to be a consultant, a C-level consultant, and I worked with Julie Young at Florida Virtual School. And that's when I really found my purpose, and that would be to transform education with technology. I learned from the best and the brightest, from the Michael Horns and Tom Vander Arks and Julie Young, about personalized learning and how technology can be so much more engaging for students and help each student learn the best way for them. So the personalization of the modality and the content and mastery, competency of content areas versus just getting a letter grade. And it just really made sense to me. And then I wanted to implement a different model, a model like this, but in the public sector, in traditional brick and mortar. So I was fortunate enough to meet Robert Abosa, and he was the superintendent of Fulton County Schools, which is north and south of Atlanta. And there we had a great team between the academics and the technology. The whole district was innovative and energized, and we transformed learning. We implemented personalized learning at scale for 100,000 kids, and we had amazing results because of this total change, not just the technology. And we were the first large district to pivot to remote in the beginning of 2020. But I could see I was getting calls from other districts, and they were having challenges, and I could see that I really needed to help bring this experience that I had gained to the industry. And so I talked to the folks at Microsoft, and they were starting up a customer success unit for the US. And so I joined Microsoft as the general manager, the leader in the US for customer success and education. And then just a few months ago, I became the global CTO for education at Microsoft. And both of these roles have really helped me continue this journey that I've been on to make education more engaging, more positively impactful, to help all learners become ready for whatever they want in the workforce. It's just been so amazing to be able to help so many people across the globe.
That's amazing. Serena, what I love about your journey is there's so much breadth and so much depth. Like, you've been with IBM, you've been in Fulton County, you've gone to HMH. Not only that, but you've also worked in technology roles, but you've worked in customer success. So you really know the issues that teachers and students faced firsthand, rather than doing user surveys. So I think that's amazing. What I love about your profile is the headline that you have on your LinkedIn: empowering every teacher and learner on the planet to achieve more. I think that just summarizes it all for me.
Right. It does. Well, and so it's very close to the mission. Our overall mission for Microsoft is to empower every person and organization to achieve more. So I've just adopted that to education. And it is about the educators and the learners and helping, especially since the pandemic. So much has changed, and we need to think differently. I mean, the worst thing that we could do is go back to how it was. It wasn't working well before. And the pandemic has accelerated change by a decade in 2.5 years. And so now there's so many possibilities to leverage the possibilities that technology provides.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you and I discussed at One EdTech, I remember, was just the gap that we see. So students today are born as digital natives, right? They're
Right.
born and they have smartphones and they're just way ahead of the curve when it comes to technology. Whereas teachers, educators, and the faculty and even administration, not so much. And it's not good versus bad. It is how it is. So how do we bridge that gap of having digital native students versus not so digital natives, creators, administrators, teachers?
So you're right, and the pandemic has kind of shifted that, right? So before the pandemic, most teachers really were not that comfortable with technology. There certainly were. The district that I was at, we have what we'll call vanguard teachers, and they were very comfortable with technology, and they helped the other teachers learn how to integrate technology into their instructional practices. So that is one proven method, is that you enable and empower the educators that are comfortable with technology to help the other educators. Another thing that we implemented was student-led technology change. So let the students who are so good at technology help other students and their teachers to do better at it. And then, there is this challenge where teachers tend to like to be kind of the most knowledgeable person in the classroom. And this is all kind of age dependent, but we can help our educators become more knowledgeable about technology with professional development. So like Microsoft has the MIEE, all these, they have a whole line of certifications for teachers so that they can become comfortable with technology. But these other methods work as well. And now that we've been through the pandemic, I think there's a lot more teachers that are comfortable with technology, and now it's about using it better and being better at it. So I think maybe we've encouraged a thirst for learning, hopefully.
Yeah, and what you just said, I think the concept of students who are very comfortable with technology kind of guiding teachers, it's very similar to the concept that I'd heard back in the days about reverse mentoring, where somebody who is very comfortable, the mentor and mentee role can change. So I think that's a very powerful concept. I hadn't heard about it in the education perspective.
Yeah.
So that's pretty great. Now coming to digitally engaging technology, right?
Right.
What are some of those examples of how do you think can we make education more engaging and basically improve teachers' workload rather than burdening them further? You have some examples?
Yes. And so, the key to student education is engagement. I don't think that we can really teach students any longer without technology. And if you try, I think, kind of beware, because I don't think that students are going to tolerate educational experiences that are not technology rich. So it becomes imperative for the teachers to be comfortable with technology. And some of the ways that we are making it easier for teachers to offload some of their work, what I call let the teachers be the human in the room. Teachers don't need to be the subject matter expert all the time. They need to be maybe learning with the students and be more comfortable with that, be the facilitator of knowledge, and help students not memorize things, not just remember facts and figures, but critically think about information and even gather that information themselves at age appropriate and subject appropriate times. So we should be thinking about teachers as the ones that help students find their gifts inspire them, help them develop relationship skills, conflict management skills, coping skills, things that only a person can help another person do. And rather than just lecturing, we can use technology to capture the best presentations, multimodal presentations even, from master teachers. So somebody that is a subject matter expert and who is a gifted speaker can talk, and we can replicate and reuse that content over and over. So, I envision a teacher in the classroom maybe playing a snippet of a lecture or showing a bit of a video of an environment or animal or situation, and then stopping the video and having the class discuss it. What did they see? What did they learn? What would they do in this situation? And so more facilitating discussion rather than telling the students what they need to know. And it's a very different role for teachers, but in the end, it's going to be much more interesting for both the students and the teachers. The number one thing we need to teach our students is a love of learning, because lifelong learning is going to be the norm.
I love that. There are so many things to unpack over there. First one, I think the concept of earlier days we used to memorize because the information was scarce. We live in an information abundant world today. We have information overload. So I think it's important to teach students how to make sense of the information around them. And in some cases, actually limit the sources of information that they get because there's just too much information out there. And the second thing that you said, which really hits home, is making students think about a situation rather than telling them, okay, this is how, for example, photosynthesis. This is how photosynthesis happens. This is how it is. And now you learn it and then you repeat it in the exam. Rather than that, okay, stopping in between and saying, okay, what do you think should happen? Why do you think that this color is green? So, I think that thing from the change from teaching or not teaching, the change from one-way delivery to a facilitative mode of learning is so powerful.
Right. And helping students work with other students, helping problem-based analysis, helping solve problems, helping them think critically, analyzing, synthesizing, those kinds of things. That's what teachers are really needed. And it's interesting because I was just working with an organization in Australia that are early childhood educators. And, I hadn't done a lot of early childhood thinking or education or support. So I prepared for this and I went there and I heard from lots of other thought leaders, and the discussions were so rich. They're working with kids that are ages 3 to 5 and sometimes even younger. And you don't need to teach these students so much differently than the K to 5. They are capable of being creators. We had very rich conversations about students as creators rather than consumers, even at ages 3 to 5. They had students creating projects and learning about the environment, whether it was farming or whether it was creating even a video of pictures that they had taken of their environment. They would go places and take pictures of it and then come back and put it together into a story. They would plant seeds and watch them grow and document them growing. So there's so many things that even young children can do that we might not have thought was possible. So certainly students in older grades are capable of gathering information, synthesizing it, coming to conclusions, thinking critically about it, and presenting it.
Yep. And the skills that you're talking about are so relevant as you go up in your journey as a learner and even in corporate. Like project-based learning is so relevant. Today, if you think about knowledge work, most of the work that we do is projects. Project management, I argue sometimes with my team members that project management is necessary for every role that you do today. Every role
I couldn't agree
involves
more.
Project management. You don't need to be PMP certified, but you need to understand core skills of project management. The second is note taking. How do you synthesize the information from meetings and make it into actionable insights? And so your observation is very fascinating about kids age 3 to 5 thinking on those lines? I mean, I have a 4-year-old, and he astonishes me sometimes with the things that he comes up with.
Students meet our expectations, and we need to have high expectations for all students. So you're saying your 4-year-old, if you give your 4-year-old the opportunity to learn from a computer, learn letters, learn reading, learn sounds, they will step up. And I actually have the same background as you. For the first half of my career, I was very focused on project management, delivery, and strategy. I am PMP certified. I actually even helped write the portfolio management book of knowledge. And the PMBOK for portfolio management. So I thought that was the most important skill, and I still do for internal organizations. And to be able to deliver projects, you have to be able to relate to people. You have to be able to identify risks and mitigate them. You be able to resolve conflicts. You be able to prioritize, schedule, plan, identify dependencies. There's the vendor management and communications management and change management. All of those things are critical for project management, but they're critical for every job, as you said.
Yeah. And so now we take a shift from what is there right now to what do you see the future of EdTech to be like? EdTech and education, what do you see with what we are seeing right now, the improving adoption of technology, and in some cases, some cases successful, some cases not very successful. We are trying to make a lot of things work. What do you see the future 5-10 years down the line?
Sure. So, I think one thing's for sure is that nobody can say exactly what's going to happen. I do consider myself somewhat of a futurist. I've always been reading and thinking about what is possible in the future. And so many of the predictions don't come true exactly right, but there's central themes that come true. And I think we can all agree that technology is only accelerating, and it is a part of every aspect of our lives and work. So it is critical that we all develop some technology skills, because no matter what your role in this as an adult, as a worker, it's going to include some level of technology. And I'll say there are 5 things that I'm seeing right now as trends in the educational technology space. And I think these are going to continue. I think that the pandemic has just accelerated our change. So the 5 things are accessible digital learning environments, equity and accessibility for pandemic recovery. So I think that's going to go on for the next several years. And it's going to continue that we want to make our learning accessible and equitable through technology. So we have lots of adaptive technologies at Microsoft. So for example, we have Immersive Reader, and you can put any kind of text into Immersive Reader and it will read aloud. It'll read with more spacing. It'll read more boldly. It will help the reader read if they're dyslexic. So it is a truly accessible tool that people without challenges often use some of these tools just because it makes it easier for them. And then the next one is learning insights and analytics and adaptive learning for acceleration. So you asked before, what can we do to help offload work from teachers? We can personalize the learning. So help teachers see where students maybe need some additional work and actually have the artificial intelligence build those content playlists for each student. An individual teacher cannot personalize a lesson plan for every student every day, but technology can. So I definitely see that education will become more and more personalized, just like we see that trend in medicine, that we're doing more to personalize medicine based on a person's genetic and other system specificities. The third one is cybersecurity and ransomware threats. We've only seen that accelerate, and every organization should know that they have to be diligent. They have to have safeguards in place. You have to have a safe environment before learning can happen. Number 4, educator and staff retention issues. We've seen a brain drain in educational organizations into the private sector. I went from a public sector organization to the private sector, and we're seeing that, I'm just one person, but when I speak with our customers, they have lost a lot of staff. They're having trouble attracting and retaining educators. And we have to do things to make the environment for the educators more accepting and welcoming and attractive. And it isn't just about pay. People want to work somewhere that they feel they belong, that they feel like they're making a difference. And so the kind of education I described earlier, where the teacher's the facilitator, that's something that teachers would welcome. And we have some tools under Viva, and they help with professional development, with like nudging them to have work-life balance and all kinds of other things to make it an attractive workplace. And then 5, this one may not be a 10-year trend, but it's certainly in the next few years as we see the economy struggling with inflation and maybe even going into recession, we're not sure. But cost cutting and doing more with less is a theme that I'm consistently hearing across our customers. And so we do need to look for ways that we can do more with the funds and even the time that we have. So just being efficient with our resources. So in the 10-year horizon, personalized learning is going to be a huge play. Analytics, data, AI, ML, and then I think the last one that I didn't mention would be immersive learning environments. I just got a preview of the metaverse, and the possibilities are endless, how we can help our students be immersed in an environment to learn a topic, whether it's under the sea or in the sky or in a different part of the planet. They can just be immersed in this environment in a 3D concept. And so that's just going to be amazing.
The metaverse is very exciting. I think everybody's looking forward to it. I know that there is some early trends. It'll be very interesting to see how that shapes up. But one of the things that you mentioned was accessibility. I'm always amazed at Microsoft's focus on accessibility. And, I read Satya's book, Hit Refresh. He talks about accessibility being a very core tenet of what he does. Our office is very close to the Microsoft store in New York. So I see that emphasis on accessibility. And it is very refreshing and very good to see that.
It is. And what we're finding is that, we're all unique in some way, right? We all have some maybe talents and gifts, and then some things that we're not as good at. And so technology is the great equalizer. It can make us all operate in a way that is productive, regardless of what we are really good at and what we need to make up for. And so accessibility is, I think, something that we can all support. And Microsoft is taking the lead on providing accessible and equitable tools and technologies. I was in the accessibility lab in Redmond, Washington a few weeks ago. Amazing. They had this whole space where you can see, they can demonstrate, they bring people in to test things, they try out new products all the time, new things like a different type of mouse and adaptability. And you can buy these now. There's adaptability hardware for your mouse, for your keyboard. A hackathon actually trained computers for eyesight for people that can't use their body, like with ALS. They can actually write with just using their eyes to select the letters.
Wow, that would be amazing. It is just amazing, the possibilities. And I think the importance is to keep everybody in mind while designing the product.
Right.
I think that's the core of it. I think, technology can make things possible if I think we design for everyone and we conceptualize for everyone.
Yes, 100%. And, technology, like you said, I want to repeat that. Technology has to be people first. It's always about the people. Change about using technology is about the people, and then building the technology has to be about the people. So that's a great way of putting it. Amplify that.
Yep. No, and as we come to a close, Serena, a couple of questions. Where do you get your EdTech information? What do you read? Are there some sources that you follow? Where do you get most of your EdTech and education related information?
So I read, I scan, I look at everything possible. There's one publication in particular that's only a few years old, at least since I've been reading it, called the 74. And they have reporters in New York and in LA, and they do report from across the globe as well. And they talk about real situations going on. But I read all of the others, as much as I can in terms of, the and Chronicle and EdWeek and, you name it. My inbox is full every day. Whenever I get a couple of minutes in between meetings or before or after meetings, I go through and I look for the headlines. And but then I also look at some hard sources like McKinsey and HoloLens and IDC and Gartner. So I try to look at, and then internally we have a lot of information as well. So I try to look at a broad spectrum of content, but then I also get information from talking to people, talking to customers, talking to developers and marketing folks. And so I learn as much as I try to give when I meet with customers.
Great. Those 74 is, you're right. I've heard of it recently. I read some of the articles, pretty good. So I think that's really up and coming.
Let's just say that in addition, I don't just read educational information. I read, I'm an avid reader of nonfiction. So I have to give a shout out to Brene Brown. I like to say I'm her number one fan, but I'm sure there'd be a lot of competition. And
I love the content from her. It's amazing.
And then along the same lines is Adam Grant. So Adam Grant is amazing. So I read everything that Brene Brown and Adam Grant write.
Great. I think both of them are just amazing concepts of vulnerability, leadership. I really like the content as well. So thank you for highlighting those. Last two questions. One is, what is your vision? I mean, there's Microsoft vision of education, right? I'm sure there are things. But what is your vision within that bigger vision of how do you want to propel that vision forward in the next years to come?
Right. Well, that is exactly what I am focused on. And I wish I could show some pictures, but it's a podcast. Let's just say my vision and my hope and what I am working for is to be able to provide what we used to call at IBM turnkey solutions. So looking at the big challenges in education, like predictive analysis, understanding what students are struggling. So using data to understand who's struggling, how they're struggling, and then being prescriptive in terms of here's what we can do about it. This is how we can help them overcome those struggles or those challenges and succeed. And so I want to be able to provide, and I'm just giving one use case here, provide our customers, whether it's higher ed or K-12, with the data, the analytics tools, as well as the prescriptive content. And that can come from a third party. These are not going to be all first party Microsoft solutions, but we should also be able to provide the partners that can do that integration and that delivery. So I want to be able to come to our customers with that complete package solution of the Microsoft platform, the Microsoft tools, and in addition, our partner tools, so ISVs, as well as the systems integration partners. So come together with a very big tent of people, process, and technology to help our customers succeed.
That's amazing, and the turnkey solution is very fascinating. So definitely looking forward to that. And the last question before we leave, I think, what is one thing that's not on your profile that you'd like to share?
Oh, well, what's not on my work profile is what I do in my personal time when I have it. And so this past weekend's a perfect example. I was out in Redmond with customers for the week. And so I stayed over the weekend, and my husband and I hiked the Cascade Mountains. And so I love to be outside. I love to be active. My husband and I both have a passion for travel, for adventure, for adrenaline rushes. We like to hike and boat and bike. And we are building a house together that is going to be our dream house on the lake. So I've super into architecture, modern architecture. So those don't show up on the profile at all.
That's amazing. And I would love to see a photo of the house when it's done.
Okay.
So thank you for this. Where can people find you? Where can they connect with you?
The best way to find me is on LinkedIn. It's Serena Sacks-Mandel. And I'm on Twitter, I'm on Insta, but and I'm on Facebook, but I use LinkedIn the most. So that would be the best place to find me.
Great. Thank you so much, Serena. This was wonderful. Loved all your insights and really excited to see which direction you're heading in. And thank you for coming. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Enjoyed having this conversation and thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks.